So what I thought I'd do today is just use some of the sets that were appearing on the show. They're all previous releases apart from the nested stitched bubble circles, which is a new set to us, a new nesting set. I just wanted to show you also how these scripted edges work, because I don't think Lisa got round to demoing these today. And then if you was on the fence with these, you saw the demo or saw perhaps some of the samples that have used these, but not quite sure how they work. Really, it should be quite interesting. Then we have the urn jug and vases, which are a stock item with Lisa. Don't stay in stock all that long, so they do need to keep coming back. So it's really nice to have the chance just to use them today. What I'll do, I'll just show you how they appear, and I'm also using the Simply Heartfelt as well. So I've made a shaker card with some of the elements, so it's a really different way to use the Simply Heartfelt items. And also what I wanted to include today was show you how we can actually colour tint the textured cardstock to make our own colour palette for a shaker card, really. I've used texture today because I wanted to use I wanted to make a really clean and simple card, really, so I've used white on white. So yeah, there's just a couple of techniques and a couple of just showing you how the dies works today. Right, I've made a square card, but later on I'll actually be using a 5x7 card just to show you that these dies work on various card blank sizes as well. So you can see here on the card, the scripted edges do exactly as I say. It actually creates an edge for your card if you want it to. You don't have to, but it's a really nice way to just cut the side of your card blank and just create a new shape. It's a die set, so we don't have any stamps in this set, but what you can see, if I just turn this on the side, that the birthday has actually been die cut out of this as well. And now I've left this white on white because that was the look that I wanted, but you can quite easily make that a coloured sentiment by die cutting the words. Now I'll show you 5x7 card today, just to show you that, say, the different dimensions of cards that these dies do actually work. So I've got just a normal card blank. There's no texture on this cardstock at all, but because I want to make a predominantly white card, I've decided to use a texture cardstock just to add a little bit of interest. So I cut myself a layer of textured cardstock and matted that with a green cardstock, that also textured from Lisa's set. So that would be the matten layer that would sit on top of the card, like so. So you do that to fit your card blank. Then for this card, I'm using the With Love sentiment. So I'm using this one here. So I've taken the edger die for that, and I've just lined that up the best that I could. Now the way that I line this up, I use the two ends, which is basically going to create the line of your card blank there. So I've just taken a ruler, so I just find my small ruler. So I take my ruler. Obviously I've got a straight edge at the top of the ruler, so I just line that up with the top edge of my matten layer, and I just line up the best that I can the two edges, so I sort of makes it look like it's straight. It's entirely up to you how you do that. If you're not particularly fussed, then sort of just go for it and line that up as best as you can. And then I basically I stick that in place and I run that through my die cutting machine. What I want to show you actually is that these dies, as small as they look, do actually cut really cleanly through both layers of this cardstock, and this is a really nice way to create this matten layer, because it would be very hard to die cut the white layer first and then die cut the green layer or whichever colour you're going to matte with and then line them up. So you can have the confidence that by creating your matte layer first that this die will cut through the both layers. So you can see here that that particular die, it isn't as long as the card is tall. So what we can do, we can take our scissors and we could just snip. Now you can use a trimmer or just use this pair of scissors. You can take a ruler and a pencil and draw a straight line down if you're not confident just going in with your scissors. We can just cut directly up to where the die has cut there, and this is what starts releasing this die from the cardstock. And this is how we can actually use this die to die cut any size of card, because you can see that the card that I've used here is shorter, but I still have exactly the same result at the end. So we have our die cut. Now obviously we do need to just secure those two layers down this side, so I can just use the nozzle of my glue and just attach those two together. So that just secures that, and we have a nice clean cut through both of those layers. Now you can put that onto the front of the card. You can either now die cut the side of the card blank, which is what I will be doing, or if you want to put another layer onto the front of the cardstock and leave the front of the card intact, you can do that, and you still have then the benefit of the shaped edging there, which you can then put your words onto. So I am going to shape the card front because I think that looks nice. So to do this now, I'm just going to line up where my matte layer here, where I will eventually be gluing that into place. I'm not sticking it down at the moment. I'm then going to line up this edge die again against what I've already cut. And then just while I'm holding the die in place, I'm just going to move my matte layer away. So this I know is lining up and will match this layer here. Take that in place, so now I can actually die cut this through my die cutting machine. It takes no time at all because it's just a narrow die. Okay, so now obviously we need to trim the card blank to match. So to keep everything in line, we can place our layer back onto the card blank and just follow the line that we've cut before, and that should then match the line of the die cut. It's a really nice way just to create another shaped card, which just adds a bit of interest, doesn't it? And we'll just trim that up to the top there. So now we can add our layer to the front of the card. We have a really nice matte layer which we was able to achieve earlier. Had the confidence that our die cut lines match up exactly. Okay. Now there's a couple of ways that we can actually cut or create the words that come on the, that follow this die cut here. As I say, you could actually die cut into this top layer with the word, so you actually create an aperture, as it were. But to do that, what you'd need to do is actually die cut and take all the little pieces out of the die and replace them back into the word, so like the centre of the D, the A and the centre of the B, just to create the flow of the words. Or if you want to start creating your own colour palette for your card, you can take a piece of plain cardstock. You can choose the colour. I'd probably go with the green actually, because we've got the green matten layer. And with one of the larger blending brushes and a piece of cardstock, because it covers a big area, we can just start applying the ink straight to the card, like so, and create a blend. Now the beauty of this, you can use as many colours as you want. You can create the colour to be as bold or as pale as you want. Now the colours I've used here actually are completely inspired by seeing Lisa on screen this morning. These are some of her go-to colours, aren't they? The green, the pink and the blue. And they're just so fresh against a white card, aren't they? They really stand out. So as you can see, I can really quickly colour tint that cardstock with any colour that I want to use. So I'm using the lovely Margarita, which is a really nice zingy green. And I think what I'll do, just to make it match a little bit more the green that I've used there, add a tiny bit of blue. So I'm going to blend most of that onto my blending mat first, and then bring that onto the cardstock. And you can see now how the colour really blends really nicely. So that just intensifies the green really. And I really don't need that much of the blue at all. You can see I'm picking that from my messy mat and putting that straight onto the cardstock. And that is just enough ink. We really don't need very much at all. So that gives us a really nice bluey green colour. So now this is ready for die cutting. Now if you've used a lot of ink, and perhaps even depending actually on the cardstock you're using and how long it takes for that ink to dry, you may just want to wait a little bit or put the heat tool on that, just to make sure that your cardstock is dried. Just that will just allow the die cut then to just be really crisp for you. So because I'm using the words, they're a small die, so I can use my little desktop die cutter. Pick that up. As I say, the colours that I'm using here, I guess the colours, because these are such primary colours, I could probably easily enough match some cardstock to it. But if you wanted to use any more of the other colours that we've had released in the inks that are quite bespoke and quite unusual, or even if you've just run out of cardstock of your favourite colour, which can happen sometimes, it's really nice technique to be able to colour tint your card. So I'm just going to poke those out of there. Now obviously I've changed the wording on this, so we've got two die cuts to come out of here. You can see just how lovely that looks. We can just line that up to fit on the side of our card. And actually you can see just by adding that bit of blue, it has really allowed me to colour match that green really well. Now obviously I could have used I think. So it's so easy now just to line up and match those words to match up with the edge die cutting and on there. So they give such a nice effect. If I were to line the inside of the card with a green, a similar colour, you can see how that really makes those letters pop. And that in itself was starting to look like a really smart card. So what I'll do now, I'll just show you how some of these urns and vases, some of these vessels look on the front of this card. I think because of the shape of the card, it really does lend itself to the shape of some of these vessels here. And what I've done to add some elements to the rest of the card, I've actually die cut from other pieces of cardstock that I've colour tinted. So I've got the Tranquil Waters there, I've got the Shocking Pink and the margarita. The shocking pink, actually, if I'd have worked a lot more ink onto the cardstock, that would have been a lot darker. So it's really nice that you've got that control over the intensity of the colour that you're using. So we have these lovely die cuts, which you can die cut from anything. You can die cut, I've just die cut them from the textured cardstock. You can run them through an embossing folder like Lisa was suggesting this morning. You have this one, which is one of the old dairy, I don't know what you call it, like a dairy jug, I suppose, that you go and collect the milk in. It actually comes with 2 layers, so that's really quite sweet. You can leave that white to go on there, and then you can really make the card pop by adding elements from the Simply Heartfelt set, or any floral set actually. I've chosen this one, but you can leave the vessels white, and you can really make the card pop and fresh with some coloured details. So I can't pick them up, really fiddly. There we are. So I've just die cut these. I've colour tinted these from the colours that you see sitting there. You can just play to your heart's content with these. It's really a really nice way just to add a lot of colour. Say fresh colour. It's such a simplistic card, but I think sometimes that can just be the best, and that would just be lovely to finish like that. Obviously you can colour tint these vases as well, so perhaps if we come in with a bit of the shocking pink, I'm just going to use the ink that's left on the brush, and I can just colour tint the background. If we just go around the outside like that. Again, I'm going quite pale. You can go as bold as you like. So then if I layer this back on here, I have subtle colour but still keeping the whiteness. So that's another look that you could have like that. What I will do now, I shall show you how we go about making the shaker card. Again, I'm going to use elements that I've die cut here, because your shaker cards don't always need to have the glitter and the sparkly bits in them. If you don't have any stock like that, then don't think that you're not able to make a shaker card. So I think that's the point I'm trying to make here. You can use so many more elements. So I use the nested stitched bubbles as I have done on this card. Obviously, being a square card, I've got the chance to use the circle as a whole. Now, to make the shaker element of this card with these circles, I didn't want to go too small, so I've had to cut the circles down a little bit, but I think that just gives that a really nice look. So I'll show you what I've done. Obviously this time round I have used the bubbles here. I haven't on this one, so I'll use this one, the next size down. So I cut myself a solid circle like so. Then I used this die and the next stitched one down. So I was able then to cut the frame with quite a large border on there, and that gives you, that's the advantage of doing that. It gives you the space to add your 3D foam. Now I've used a thin foam for this, but by creating a wider frame, you can actually put your 3D foam squares around the outside if you butt them all close together. So that would work really well. So those are the two dies that I've used to create that frame. Then obviously we need to cut a piece of acetate for the window, and that would be the largest circle there to create the frame. Now as a full circle, I'll just show you with the base, that was obviously too large to sit on the front of the card because it was hiding my words, so I've shifted it all over a little bit, and cut the circle. So now that's where the shaker element is going to sit, and therefore I just cut the frame with the acetate down accordingly. I kept the piece from here because obviously if I put that there, that side of the circle is open, and if I put the 3D foam down the side, you'll see it. So I've kept this part, and what I'll do, I'm going to stick that onto the card like that. And do you know what? So that was my make. And I can just complete the shaker element here and just seal in that compartment that I'm going to put the shaker elements into. Now, because I'm not using glitter and the elements that I'm using for the shaker are a lot larger, I don't need to be so fussy in creating a completely sealed unit, because obviously glitter gets everywhere and it's going to find any little gap to escape from, isn't it? But when I'm using larger elements like this, it's not quite as essential, I would say. So I'm creating the shaker element as a standalone piece to start with, because that actually makes it a lot easier to add to the card a little bit later on. Remember that I've colour tinted my card stock, and I have previously die cut some of the words, and I think it was Donna that noticed I've used some of the words in the shaker element. So I've die cut that from this set here. But yeah, so I've put hugs in. Now, obviously, because I've colour tinted this, we want to make sure that we put them the right way around, and because they're words. Now, until you sort of get your head around this, it might be worth picking up your shaker element and the word, putting it the right way around as you would see it sitting on the card, and then turn it over. So I'm going to put those in there like that, so put them upside down. And here. What I'm going to do, obviously it's too big to fit in as it is, but I'm just going to trim this down. I'm going to use these heart elements, and instead of wasting what I've already die cut, I'm just going to trim these hearts. So they're going to be different lengths. And they'll just be nice little elements just to sit on the inside of the card there. I'm also going to use these ones because I die cut some of those. Again, they're obviously too large to fit in as they are, but I can trim them down, and I can make them different lengths just to add a little bit of interest. So I just snip the stalks, and obviously we can add those in upside down, of course. From the die cutting of these bubble circles here, I've actually kept all the circles that came out. I've actually collected them, and every time I've used these bubble circles, actually I've done the same, and I think also from the ovals, and I've started collecting them. And I've got some blue ones here, and I've got some sparkly ones here, and some acetate ones. So if you don't have glitter or any sparkly elements to put in your shaker card, collect the circles from these. Now you can just throw them in. I'm just putting them in so that the texture area is texture side down. Now we're ready just to enclose that, so I can take off the back into my phone. But if you're using larger elements like this, then it will be quite easy to use foam pads and just sort of make sure that they sort of butt up against each other all the way around. So we've done that, and then we can just layer on our back in there. And do you know what? Using die cuts like this, it means that they're less static as well against your acetate, and that's just really, really pretty. So now we can just add our shaker element onto the front of the card, like so. It's just a very plain and simple card, or if you've just got small little scraps of cardstock like this, or even little pieces that you've done like this, die cut these small hearts just from here and just create little elements to sit inside your shaker cards. I mean, you can get so much more out of all these small scraps. So I think That's just a really nice sort of idea, just to use up every single little bit of your cardstock elements and use some of our favourite designs if you've had these in your stash for a little while, but you need just a bit of a refresher on how to use them. It's a really nice, different way to use sets that you may have had sitting in your stash for a little while, bar the circles obviously, which are new, I think. But thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. Dawn will be with you on Thursday, then again we have Lisa on Friday. So enjoy the rest of your week, everyone. Thanks for joining me, and I shall see you all again soon.